reflecting on our teaching is something we should always be doing as teachers. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through a simple process of how you can reflect on this past school year and how to use that information to help you plan for next year. If you're new here, I'm Rachel Vincent and I share tips on running effective and efficient classrooms so that you can get more done and still have time to teach. I'm going to break this video down into two different parts. In the first part, I'm going to tell you a couple different methods of how you can reflect on your past year, and then I'm going to give you some different areas and questions that can help you in that reflection process. So the first method is the 3-2-1 method. It's quite simple, where you just think of 3 things in your classroom that went well this year, 2 things that did not go well, and then 1 area that you want to improve or focus on to work on for next year. So 3 things that went well this year in my classroom were how we started teaching our math block. And I really have to give that credit to my coworker, because she's the one that she is the one that planned it and helped the rest of our team get on board with it. And it went really well, and I want to continue doing that next year. Another thing that went really well is how, instead of doing centers, we did a must do, may do during our ELA time. And this allowed us to integrate more social studies content into our reading block, and that worked really well this year. The third thing that went really well this year was I gave my students a smaller little pouch just for pencils and glue. And everything else, all of their crayons and scissors, stayed in their cubbies, and so they weren't playing with them all day, but they had access to the things we used most in 4th grade. 2 things that did not go very well this year was our end of the day routine. It was just very chaotic, and I think because there are too many class jobs, and I really kind of want to look at how many class jobs I have. Does everyone actually need a class job, or can I narrow that down? And just kind of tweak that area to make our afternoons work a little better. The second thing that didn't go as well were our flexible seating rotation. It just was a lot to keep up with. So I have already kind of worked that out of how I want to do that next year. Instead of rotating as much as we did, make it more of a table rotation so the chairs aren't having to move as much. I think that was part of our chaos in the afternoon as well. So those are some areas I want to work on for next year. My big focus next year is going to be on more of the science of reading and how that works in a 4th grade classroom. I would really like to bring in more morphology and grammar and kind of meld our ELA time a little bit better than it has been. And so I'm spending a lot of my summer reading about that and helping myself learn a little bit more about it before I can implement it into my classroom. Another way to reflect on your school year is to use the method stop, start, continue. Think about what is something you want to stop doing, what is something you want to start doing, and what is something you will continue doing. So the stop, start, continue reflection for me is more personal as a teacher than necessarily the instruction and things happening in the classroom. So one of the things that I want to stop is the mindless scrolling through social media in the evenings and allowing some of that negativity to affect my mental health. And I tend to take it into the next day. And so that is just an area that I want to stop and not do as much during the school year. The start is actually something that I want to bring back into my life. It's probably been about 1.5 years since I did a gratitude journal, and I want to bring that back into my morning routine and really reflect on things that I am grateful for in life. And I also want to allow some of that to be specific to what's happening at school, because there's so often where all we see is the things that are going wrong that we forget some of the things that are going well in our classroom. And then the continue, I am going to continue to leave at the end of my contract hours. Of course, there are times where I won't be able to when there's meetings and things like that, but sticking to my stop time has really helped me be able to pursue passions outside of the classroom and really just helped for my overall mental well-being. I'd love to know, what are some things that you are wanting to stop, start, or continue next year? Let me know in the comments below. So here are some areas that you can reflect on as you're thinking, what went well, what didn't go well, what do you want to improve? And one of those areas is relationships, thinking about the relationships with your students and also the relationships with the parents of your students. Another area that we often forget about are relationships with our coworkers. I'll have to say, in the last 2 years, My relationship with my coworkers has really strengthened, and I can really call them my friends, and it has just really helped when you're having those bad days to have those coworkers that you can rely on. Some of the more obvious things to reflect on are your classroom management, what went well, what didn't, classroom organization, what are some areas you want to work on, what is working well that you want to maybe try to implement in another area, thinking about your routines and procedures, what do you need to kind of tweak to make work differently next year, your classroom setup and design, and curriculum. What are some areas that you want to improve? I do encourage you, if you are a first-year teacher and you are thinking about all these things, or first, second, third-year teacher, and you're thinking about all these things that you need to work on, because as teachers we're constantly wanting to improve, is to really just focus on one area. I know for me there are some tweaks I want to make, but my main focus is going to be grammar and word study in those areas. I'm not trying to tackle all of the subject areas. I just want to focus on that one thing. And I just want to go through a few questions that you could ask yourself as you're going through this reflection process. I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget them when I was going through the process. And the first one is, what areas can I help my students more? What am I interested in learning about? What can I change to make things run more smoothly? What is something I saw a coworker do that I would like to try? Where did my attention go when I was stressed? And is that where I want it to go? Those are some really powerful things to journal through or think through as you are reflecting on this past school year. And this will help you figure out what you need to work on for next school year. Now that you have reflected on your school year and you have some things that you want to work on for next year, how do you fit that into your summer and still have time to recharge, relax, and do the fun things of summer? Check out the video that's on your screen now, and I will show you how to plan out your summer so that you can get all the things accomplished that you want to do. I'll see you over there.